Hey, my name is Gavin Burgess, and welcome to Hostetler Precision Ag. We're at Kent and the guys' shop here, just outside of Andrew, Iowa. We're with the Cornelius Seed Group. I'm with Precision Planting, and today we're going to kind of go through a planter and what's it take to get ready for spring. What do we need to look at? What do we have to get ready? How do we make sure we have all the parts and everything ready and in stock so you guys have a successful spring and you get that great emergence and that stand that you're looking for. All right, the next step we're going to talk about is those disc openers inside of there. Disc openers are some of the most important things because they're creating the depth at which we're planting, right? We're setting that T-handle and they're cutting that trench for that seed to get to the bottom. And we want to make sure that good Cornelius seed gets to the bottom of that trench so it grows and emerges together throughout that whole growing season for you. So as we think about those disc openers, the old adage is a half-inch of wear, they need to be replaced. And that's still today. That's a crucial part of that. When they get worn less than half an inch, they're wearing so that we can't shim them together properly and utilize them moving forward. So you need to measure your disc openers every year to ensure that they are no more than a half-inch wore from their original width. This Deere planter here is a 15-inch original disc. 14 and a half is going to be worn out on it. So we need to replace that. Now, I will warn you, there are way different levels of, different quality levels of disc openers out on the marketplace today. We can go into any shop and order disc openers, but I challenge you guys to check those. One, you want to check to make sure that disc is not warped. So lay that on a flat surface, make sure it's smooth, and make sure that that disc is not warped at all. The other thing is you want to check that hub. You want to make sure the hub is actually centered in that disc. Best way to do that is stick it in a vise and spin that disc to see, and then put a screwdriver or some type of square up against the outside edge of it. Spin that disc and see if that disc moves away from that screwdriver or back to it. If it moves too much away and back to it, that means that hub is not centered in the center of that disc, and you're going to have a very poor trench as you're going across as those discs spin in that ground. You could create a W bottom, which is going to cause that seed to be misplaced, as well as have air pockets around it, because our closing wheel system is not designed to close up a W trench. When it comes to those disc openers, the other thing to check is to check and see that the bearing in the hub is also centered and set into that hub well. If that bearing is starting to go out, or that bearing is not set in that hub square, you'll also get a wobble to that disc. So when that's going across the ground, those discs are not able to wear. We actually want to see that there's 30 thousandths or less of an error on those discs when we spin them. So we want to make sure that they're nice and solid as those discs are being spun, that they're true to being centered on there, and the bearing is centered in that hub. Very crucial parts to making sure we're creating a good V-trench with those disc openers as we put them on there. Alrighty. Hey, the next step we're going to talk about here at Hostetler Ag and with the Cornelius Seed folks, when it comes to getting that planter correct, is really planting depth, right? It's a crucial part of what we're going to do on a daily basis going across your fields. We hope you guys are digging every day to ensure that you're planting into that moisture line with that seed, because that's the crucial part. We need heat and moisture to germinate a seed. And so as we think about going across our fields, we're going to dig in every field that we get to and understand that soil moisture line. Is it a hot day? Is that moisture line going to be going down? Is there rain coming and we may have some extra moisture coming? How deep do we want to plant that seed to ensure that it's going to germinate at the same time and come up out of the ground together? One of the crucial parts on a planter to make sure that you have set correctly is your depth. So we can set our depth based off of the book, and at 4 and 5 on a John Deere row unit is typically where we would say that's 2 inches of planting depth. But in all reality, guys, that's not the truth. We have wear points within the point from this T-handle here down to where our gauge wheels are going into the ground. And so as we think about those wear points, just for instance, we let our disc openers wear a half an inch before we replace them. If that's the same setting here as it is with a new disc opener, to where we're now letting it wear a half an inch, and every one of our notches is a 1/4 inch of an adjustment, we're actually 2 notches off from actually planting at 2 inches of depth. So as we think about that, one of the things I want to challenge everybody to do is to calibrate the depth on your planter. So how are we going to do that, right? What's the way of calibrating that depth? What you're going to do is really just take a very simple tool like a 2x4, And you're going to raise that planter up, and you're going to put a 2x4 under each side of your gauge wheel. And when you do that, you'll set that planter back down, and you're going to allow that thing, you're going to take that T-handle, and then you're going to push it down until it stops. And that would be your 1.5 inches, because right, our 2x4s today are 1.5 inches thick. So when we do that, that allows us now to be set at our 1.5 inches, and we know where that 1.5 inch mark is. If you want to calibrate to 2 inches, you can sure do that. You just need to have 2 inches of board thickness or material thickness to measure that to. So when we bring that back down and we set that in there, now we know that on this year, 4 and 5 are 2 inches for this row. But the row right beside it, it may be 5 and 5, where we're at 2 inches. So you may have them across different. But all in all, guys, our ultimate goal is to get everything planted at the correct depth. And if we know exactly where that calibrated depth is, we can adjust each row specifically to getting that planter and that seed correctly planted in that moisture depth.